The galaxy was vast, filled with countless alien species, powerful starships, and ancient civilizations. But Earth, a small blue planet, was still finding its place among the stars. While most alien races viewed humanity as young, unrefined, and even naive, there was one thing they couldn't deny. Humanity had a warrior spirit. It was this spirit that had earned Earth's greatest hero, Captain Maya, her legendary status, known across the galaxy for her tactical brilliance, physical strength, and leadership. Maya was Earth's most decorated warrior. She stood tall, her armor reflecting the lights of the Grand Hall where the galaxy's most influential beings had gathered. Diplomatic talks had brought alien leaders together, and Earth had sent Maya as its representative. It was an event unlike any other. A meeting where politics, strategy, and ancient histories were discussed. But Maya's mind wasn't entirely focused on the diplomatic talks. Her thoughts wandered as she surveyed the room full of alien species, each with their own unique cultures and secrets. She had faced battles on dozens of planets, survived near-death encounters, and led her soldiers through the toughest of wars. But this was different. This was a room of peace talks, not war. It was a world of words, not weapons. Yet, despite her successes in battle, Maya had always felt a certain distance from the rest of the galaxy. She wasn't a politician. She wasn't here to make deals or charm diplomats. She was a soldier, and soldiers fought. It was in their blood. As Maya took her seat among the representatives, she felt the eyes of many in the room on her. Curious about her reputation, others were wary of her power. But one pair of eyes stood out. Lyra, the noble woman of the Narkith Empire, sat across from Maya. She was unlike anyone Maya had ever met. Lyra's presence was commanding, and her reputation in the galaxy was not far behind Maya's own. Known for her intelligence and cunning, Lyra had risen to a high political rank in her empire. But unlike most nobles, she was not just a politician, she was also a warrior. Her skills in combat were rumored to be legendary, rivaling even the greatest soldiers of Earth. During a break in the discussions, Maya found herself standing near a balcony, looking out at the stars. She was lost in thought when she heard a voice behind her. Not many humans have the courage to stand in room full of galaxy rulers without flinching, the voice said. Maya turned to find Lyra standing next to her. The noblewoman's sharp eyes were studying her, and there was an amused glint in them. "I'm not afraid of rulers," Maya replied with a small smile. "I'm just not used to dealing with words instead of weapons." Lyra chuckled softly. "A skill you'll learn eventually. Words can be as powerful as any weapon." Maya raised an eyebrow. "You speak from experience?" Lyra's eyes sparkled. "I do, but that's not why I'm here." She stepped closer, her voice lowering. "I'm here to offer you something, Captain." Maya's attention sharpened. "And what might that be?" Lyra leaned in, a playful smile crossing her face. "Marry me, human?" Maya froze, staring at Lyra for a long moment. Was she serious? Was this some kind of joke? She had expected many things, a challenge, a debate, maybe even a negotiation, but this was unexpected. Lyra's smile widened as she noticed Maya's stunned expression. "I'm just teasing you, of course," she added quickly. "But you have to admit, Earth's most decorated warrior, marrying an alien princess. That would be quite the story." Maya couldn't help but chuckle. Story for the ages, no doubt. For a brief moment, Lyra's playful demeanor softened, and Maya saw a different side to her, one that was thoughtful and serious. "You don't have to marry me," Lyra continued, "but imagine what could be accomplished if Earth and the Narkith Empire united in such a way." Maya was still trying to process the idea when Lyra's voice broke through her thoughts again. "You've fought in battles, you've led armies, but sometimes the greatest challenge isn't in defeating an enemy. It's in finding an ally who understands you." Maya took a step back, looking at Lyra carefully. "You've got a strange way of making an offer." Lyra laughed again, the sound rich and warm. "Perhaps. But you'll find that in a galaxy like this, you don't always get what you expect." Maya wasn't sure what to say. She had never imagined that a simple joke could lead to such a complicated thought. A part of her wanted to laugh it off and move on, but another part of her. The part that was a soldier, a leader, a woman who had been alone in her battles for far too long, found herself intrigued by the idea of having someone who understood her. Before Maya could speak, the conversation was interrupted as the meeting resumed. The diplomats returned to their seats, and the discussions continued. But Maya couldn't shake the thought of Lyra's words. "Marry me, human." The joke seemed simple, but it was more than that. The idea lingered in her mind like a challenge, one that Maya wasn't sure how to face. She was Earth's greatest warrior, with medals and honors to prove it. She had led her people through wars and battles that had shaped the course of history. But the galaxy was a different world, one full of politics, alliances, and diplomacy. And now it seemed that the line between war and love might be blurrier than she ever imagined. Maya returned to her seat, her mind racing. She had always been in control, always been the one to command. But for the first time, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as in control as she thought. The universe had a way of surprising her, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for what came next. Maya couldn't stop thinking about Lyra. Her words had left an impression that refused to fade. It wasn't just the joke about marriage. No, there was something more. Maya had encountered countless diplomats, leaders, and soldiers throughout her career, but Lyra was different. She wasn't like the others. There was a sharpness in her eyes, a challenge in her voice, and a power that Maya couldn't quite place. The more Maya thought about it, the more she realized that she was intrigued by this alien noblewoman. As the diplomatic talks continued, Maya found herself glancing across the room at Lyra. She was standing near a group of alien ambassadors, her presence commanding attention. She didn't speak much, but when she did, everyone listened. Her words were measured, her tone controlled, yet there was a fire beneath it all. Maya could see it in the way Lyra carried herself. She wasn't just a politician, she was a force. Maya didn't know why, but the thought of Lyra made her feel uneasy. It wasn't fear. No, Maya had faced far scarier enemies than Lyra, but there was something else. A curiosity that she had never felt before. She had spent most of her life in the harshest conditions, leading soldiers in brutal wars. She had always been in control, never allowing herself to become distracted by anything or anyone.
But now,
Lyra was making her question everything. It was late into the evening when Maya found herself alone in the observation room. The stars outside were breathtaking, their light casting a soft glow across the space. She leaned against the glass, staring out at the endless expanse. The quiet of the room was a welcome change from the political noise that had filled the hall earlier. "Earth's greatest warrior, alone in the stars," a voice said from behind. Maya didn't have to turn around to know it was Lyra. She recognized the sound of that voice, calm yet powerful. "I'm not alone," Maya replied, her eyes still fixed on the stars. "I'm just thinking." Lyra stepped closer, her presence almost magnetic. "About me, perhaps?" Maya turned to face her, offering a small smile. "You do seem to have a way of invading my thoughts." Lyra chuckled, a sound that was both warm and rich. "I tend to do that to people." Maya couldn't help but laugh. "I'm not sure if that's a compliment or a warning." "A bit of both," Lyra answered. "But I'm curious, Captain. What do you think of the proposal?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "You're still on about that?" Lyra's eyes sparkled. "I was serious, at least in some ways." Maya leaned against the window, her arms crossed. "I've fought in wars, Lyra. I've led armies. I've made decisions that affect millions of lives. Marriage. It's not something I've ever considered, especially not with someone like you." Lyra stepped closer, her gaze never leaving Maya's face. "And what is it about me that makes you so unsure?" Maya felt a strange tension between them. Wasn't the tension of an enemy preparing for battle? It was something else, something she couldn't quite define. "You're not what I expected," she admitted. "I thought you'd be more like the others. Cold, detached, political." Lyra smiled softly, a hint of vulnerability in her expression. "I'm not like the others, Maya. I've spent my life building an empire, yes, but I've also fought beside warriors, led my people in battle. I understand the weight of command, of responsibility. I understand you. Maya felt a sharp twist in her chest. She had spent so much of her life alone, carrying the burden of leadership, the weight of every battle, every decision. No one truly understood the toll it took. No one, until now.
Ice.
And for the first time, Maya felt the overwhelming urge to speak the truth about her loneliness. Her doubts, and the part of herself she had kept hidden for so long. Maybe you do, Maya said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. But that doesn't mean I'm ready to let someone in. Lyra's expression softened. You don't have to be ready. No one is ever truly ready for what life throws at them. Sometimes, it's about taking a leap, even when you don't know where you'll land. Maya stared at her for a long moment, the weight of her words sinking in. There was something in Lyra's eyes, something honest, something real. Maya had seen that look before, in the eyes of her soldiers, in the eyes of those who trusted her with their lives. It was the look of someone who had fought for everything they had, and wasn't afraid to fight for what they wanted. Maya shook her head, trying to clear the fog that had settled over her thoughts. I don't know what I'm looking for. Lyra smiled gently, stepping back. You don't have to know, but maybe, just maybe, I can help you find it. Maya felt a strange warmth spread through her chest. She was used to being in control, to making decisions without hesitation. But here with Lyra, she felt something else, a pull, an uncertainty that made her feel vulnerable in a way she had never experienced before. Lyra's voice broke through her thoughts once again. The galaxy is a dangerous place, Maya, and I've spent a lot of time in the dark corners of it. I've seen things that would break most people, but I've also seen the light. I've seen what can happen when two powerful forces come together and choose to fight for something greater than themselves. Maya felt her heart race as Lyra's words hit home. What is that? Something greater? I asked, her voice barely audible. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes never leaving Maya's. You, me, us, the future, the galaxy. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She had faced enemies, she had conquered planets, but nothing had ever felt as intense as this moment. She wasn't sure where this path would lead, but she knew one thing for sure. Lyra was no joke. And this wasn't something that was going to be easily dismissed. I don't know what to say, Maya admitted. Lyra's smile was soft and understanding. Don't have to say anything, Maya. Just think about it. The galaxy is full of possibilities. And maybe, just maybe, we could explore them together. Maya watched as Lyra turned and walked away, leaving her alone with her thoughts once more. The room was silent, but Maya's mind was racing. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, Maya didn't feel afraid. She felt something else entirely. Hope. The days following their conversation were quiet. Maya tried to focus on her mission and the diplomatic talks, but her mind kept drifting back to Lyra. She hadn't expected to feel so drawn to her. Lyra was not only a noble woman, she was a warrior, but there was something more. Something deeper about her that made Maya question everything she knew about herself. Maya had always been a soldier. It was all she knew. She had earned every medal, every rank, through hard work, grit, and sheer determination. Her life had been one battle after another. It wasn't easy to let go of that identity. She wasn't sure if she was even capable of stepping away from it, but now, in the presence of Lyra, Maya couldn't help but wonder, could she be something more? Could she find another purpose beyond fighting? It was in one of these quiet moments that Lyra approached her again, this time in the training room. Maya had been working out, pushing herself through the familiar drills that kept her sharp. Clang of weapons and the rhythm of her movements gave her comfort. It was the only thing that felt normal in a life that seemed to be shifting beneath her. Still keeping yourself busy with battles? I see, Lyra said from the doorway. Her voice light, but with an edge that showed she understood the weight of it all. Maya didn't stop her training. It's what I do best. Lyra stepped into the room, watching her closely. You're always in control, always leading. But what happens when the battle is over, Maya? What happens when there's no more fight to win? Maya paused mid-swing, turning to face Lyra, Her breath came in slow, measured bursts. She had never been asked these kinds of questions before, not by anyone. Certainly not by a noblewoman or a diplomat. "I don't know," she admitted, wiping the sweat from her forehead. "Maybe I don't think about what happens after. Maybe. I'm too focused on the next fight." Lyra walked closer, her presence as commanding as ever. "Maybe you should think about it," she suggested softly. "Maybe it's time to consider that there's more to life than just the next battle." Maya set her weapon down, her eyes meeting Lyra's. "You don't understand," she said, her voice low. "This life, it's all I've ever known. I can't just walk away from it." Lyra took a step closer, her eyes softening. "I understand more than you think, Maya. I've spent my life in both worlds, as a warrior and a diplomat. But I've come to realize that the hardest battles are the ones we fight inside ourselves." Maya felt a twinge in her chest at Lyra's words. She had always fought wars, but never the kind that tested her own soul. She had never questioned her role, her place, until now. She had never allowed herself to wonder what it might feel like to be something other than a soldier. Lyra continued, her voice calm and steady. "You've led armies, Maya. You've conquered planets, and you've saved countless lives. But you've never let yourself be saved. You've always carried the weight alone. Maybe it's time you let someone else carry it with you." Maya looked at Lyra, feeling the weight of her words. She had always been the strong one, the one people depended on. But there was a loneliness that came with that strength, a quiet isolation that only she knew. She had spent years pushing people away, afraid that if she let them in, they would see the cracks in her armor. For the first time, Maya allowed herself to consider Lyra's offer. Could she really let someone else in? Could she allow herself to be more than just a warrior? The thought was both terrifying and liberating. Lyra took a step back, giving Maya space to think. "I don't expect you to have all the answers right away. But I hope you'll consider the possibility, Maya. The future doesn't have to be shaped by the battles of the past." Maya stood there in silence, the weight of her thoughts pressing down on her. She was used to making quick decisions. Two commanding armies and leading soldiers into battle. But this, this was different. It wasn't a decision she could make in an instant. It was something that would take time, something that required her to let go of everything she had known. "I don't know how to be anything but a soldier," Maya finally said, her voice quiet. "That's who I am. That's what I've always been." Lyra smiled gently. "You're more than that, Maya. I see it in you. You're a leader, a protector. But you're also someone who can choose what kind of future they want to have. And I think, I think you could have a future beyond war." Maya's heart raced as she absorbed Lyra's words. She didn't have all the answers, but for the first time, she felt like maybe there was a way forward, a way to be more than just a warrior, a way to be something different, something new. "Maybe you're right," Maya said softly. "Maybe I am more than just a soldier, but I don't know how to start." Lyra stepped closer again, her voice firm yet kind. "It's not about knowing how to start, Maya. It's about having the courage to take the first step. And you've always been courageous. You've fought for Earth, for your people. But now, it's time to fight for yourself." Maya met Lyra's gaze, feeling the weight of the words settle deep in her soul. For the first time, she wasn't just thinking about the next battle. She was thinking about the future. Her future. The thought was both daunting and exciting. She had no idea what lay ahead, but she knew one thing for sure. She wasn't alone anymore. The days that followed were filled with preparations. The diplomatic mission was far from over, but Maya's thoughts were no longer focused solely on the talks. They had shifted ever so subtly to the future, a future that now seemed to include Lyra in ways she hadn't anticipated. Despite her best efforts to focus on her work, Maya kept thinking about the conversation she had had with the Narkith noblewoman. Lyra's words had stirred something in her, something deep and unknown. Maya had always believed her purpose was to fight, to lead soldiers and win wars, but Lyra's words had challenged that belief. And for the first time in a long while, Maya was questioning everything. As the days passed, the political discussions continued. Earth's representatives were discussing everything from trade routes to military alliances with various alien races. The meetings were long and the stakes were high. But Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was at play here. She was no longer just a soldier. She was caught between two worlds, the world of war and the world of diplomacy. And she wasn't sure how to navigate it. One afternoon, as the talks were taking a break, Maya found herself alone in a quiet corner of the space station. She was staring out the window, watching the stars drift by, when she heard a familiar voice. Maya. She turned to find Lyra standing behind her, her expression calm and thoughtful. She looked different in the soft light, not as a noblewoman or a politician, but as someone who understood the weight of battle. Lyra, Maya said, offering a small smile. What brings you here? Lyra stepped closer, her eyes focused on the stars outside the window. I thought I'd find you here. You're always thinking, always planning, even when the talks aren't happening. Maya chuckled lightly. Suppose old habits die hard? Lyra smiled, then looked at Maya with a more serious expression. I've been thinking too, about what you said the other day, about being a soldier and not knowing how to be anything else. I understand that. I've spent my life fighting, leading my people in battles to protect my empire. But even I had to learn that there is more to life than just war. Maya turned to face her, the weight of her words sinking in. And what if I can't learn? What if I'm too far gone? Lyra's eyes softened with understanding. No one is ever too far gone, Maya. You're strong, you're capable, but you're also human. And humans, no matter how strong, need connections. They need to share their burdens, they need allies. The word allies hung in the air between them. Maya had fought countless battles alongside her soldiers, but she had never truly relied on anyone other than herself. She had always carried the weight alone, believing that was what made her strong. But now, with Lyra standing before her, offering her an unexpected partnership, Maya wondered if she had been wrong all this time. I don't know what to do with all of this, Maya admitted. I've spent my life believing that the only way to be strong was to stand alone, but I'm starting to think that might not be true. What do you expect from me, Lyra? Oh. Lyra's gaze was steady, her voice calm but firm. I'm not asking for anything from you, Maya. I'm offering you an opportunity to build something bigger than both of us, something that goes beyond the war, beyond the politics. I want to fight beside you, not just for our respective empires, but for something greater. Maya took a deep breath, the enormity of Lyra's words settling in her mind. She had always been alone in her fight. She had always believed that only through strength could she protect those she cared about. But now, Lyra was offering something different. An alliance, a partnership. I've never been one to rely on others, Maya said quietly. I've always believed that to be a true leader, you have to carry the burden yourself. Lyra nodded. And I understand that, Maya. But the greatest leaders know when to ask for help, when to accept that they can't do it all alone. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is to trust in others, to share the load and build something together. Maya felt a knot form in her stomach. She had always prided herself on being strong, independent, and self-reliant. Think of sharing her burden, her leadership, with someone else felt strange, almost impossible. But then again, she had never encountered anyone like Lyra before. The Narkith noblewoman was not just a politician or a diplomat. She was a warrior, just like Maya. And there was something in the way Lyra looked at her, something that made Maya believe that maybe, just maybe, this partnership could work. What are you asking, Lyra? Maya asked, her voice steady, despite the turmoil she felt inside. Lyra stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. I'm asking you to consider the possibility that together we can create something far stronger than we could alone. We can unite our worlds, our people, and fight for a future where war doesn't define us. It's not about abandoning your identity as a warrior, Maya. It's about evolving it, using your strength to protect more than just your own people. To protect all of us. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of Lyra's words. Maya felt a shift inside her, a small crack in the armor she had built around herself. For the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about the next battle or the next war. She was thinking about the future, a future where she didn't have to fight alone. Lyra smiled gently, sensing the change in Maya. You don't have to. Decide right now. Think about it, Maya. Think about what we could accomplish if we stood together. Maya looked at Lyra, her heart pounding in her chest. For the first time, she didn't feel the need to carry the weight alone. Maybe, just maybe, she could learn to trust in someone else. I'll think about it, Maya said softly. Lyra nodded. That's all I'm asking. No pressure. Just ... think about it. As Lyra walked away, Maya stood there, staring out at the stars. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, Maya felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she wasn't alone anymore. Maybe this was the beginning of something new. The peaceful days were gone. The calm of diplomatic talks, of quiet conversations about alliances and trade agreements, had been shattered by a sudden crisis. A neighboring star system just a few sectors away had been attacked by an unknown force. Ships had been destroyed, planets ravaged, and countless lives lost. The peace that had hung over the galaxy for so long now felt fragile, and the talks once about cooperation now turned to defense. Maya stood in the war room, her eyes fixed on the large holographic map in front of her. The map showed the attack's location, a system once known for its vibrant trade routes, now reduced to a war zone. She could feel the tension in the air, thick and heavy. The galaxy was on the brink of war, and Maya, Earth's greatest warrior, was about to be pulled into the chaos once more. Captain, a voice said from behind her. Maya didn't need to turn to know who it was. Lyra stood there, her presence as commanding as ever. We've received reports from our allies. The enemy force is unlike anything we've seen before. Maya turned to face her, her expression grim. And you think we're the ones who can stop them? Lyra nodded, her face serious. The Narkith Empire is powerful, but even we are not equipped to fight this threat alone. Earth's military strength, your leadership, is what we need. Together we can face them. Maya looked at the map again, her mind racing. This wasn't just a battle for Earth or the Narkith Empire. This was a fight for the entire galaxy. The stakes had never been higher. I've led my people through wars, Lyra, Maya said, her voice steady. But this is different. We don't know who these attackers are or what they want. And if we go in blindly, we could lose everything. Lyra's gaze softened, understanding the weight of Maya's words. I know. We can't sit back and wait for them to strike again. If we don't act now, there may be nothing left to save. Maya nodded slowly. The urgency in Lyra's words was clear. She knew what it was like to lose everything in a war. She had seen entire cities reduced to rubble, heard the cries of soldiers who had fallen in battle. The idea of standing by while an entire star system was wiped out was unbearable. You're right, Maya said quietly. We can't wait. Lyra stepped closer, her voice low but firm. Then we fight. Together. The decision had been made, but Maya felt a sense of unease gnawing at her. It wasn't the fear of battle. She had long since stopped being afraid of that. It was the uncertainty of what lay ahead. This wasn't just another war. This was something new, something unknown, in the days that followed. The alliance between Earth and the Narkith Empire grew stronger. Maya, now a central figure in the war effort, worked closely with Lyra to form a battle strategy. The stakes were high, but there was a sense of unity that Maya had never felt before. She'd always fought alone, but now with Lyra by her side, she felt like part of something greater. The day of the battle arrived quickly. Maya stood in front of her troops, her heart pounding in her chest. The soldiers around her were ready. They were always ready. But this time, something felt different. The weight of the galaxy's future rested on their shoulders. You all know what's at stake here, Maya began, her voice strong and clear. This isn't just a fight for Earth or the Narkith Empire. This is a fight for everyone, for every planet, every system, every life in this galaxy. We will face an enemy unlike any we've ever seen. But we will fight with everything we have. We will show them that no one threatens our homes. No one threatens our people. The soldiers around her cheered, their voices rising in unison. Could feel the power of their resolve, the strength that came from standing together. She was no longer fighting alone. Lyra stepped forward, her armor gleaming in the light. She looked at Maya, her eyes filled with determination. We'll fight with you, Maya. The Narkith Empire stands with you. Maya nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had never expected to find an ally like Lyra, someone who understood the price of war and was willing to stand beside her, no matter what. Together, they were more than just leaders of their people. They were a symbol of unity, of strength, of hope. The battle raged on for hours, the sound of explosions echoing across the battlefield. Ships clashed in space, their weapons lighting. Up the darkness like flashes of lightning. Maya led her troops with precision, her mind sharp and focused. She had always been a warrior, but this time she fought for something more than just victory. She fought for the future of the galaxy. As the final enemy ship was destroyed, Maya stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the aftermath of the battle. The enemy force had been defeated, but the cost had been high. The war was far from over. But for the first time in a long while, Maya felt a sense of peace. They had won this battle, but there were many more to come. Lyra stood beside her, her expression a mix of relief and sadness. We've won today, but the war isn't over. Maya turned to face her, her eyes meeting Lyra's. I know, but we've made a choice. We've chosen to fight together. Lyra smiled softly. Together? That's the key. Maya nodded, feeling the weight of the decision they had made. It wasn't just about winning battles or defeating enemies. It was about fighting for something greater, something that would last beyond the war. It was about the future they were building. Together, as they looked out at the stars, Maya knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy had changed, and so had she. For the first time, she didn't feel the weight of the battle alone. She had an ally, someone who understood her in ways no one else could, and together they would face whatever came next. The galaxy had changed, and so had Maya. It had been weeks since the battle, and although peace had been restored for now, Maya knew the war wasn't over. The galaxy had seen how strong humanity was, and how Earth's greatest warrior could lead in times of crisis. But it was more than that. The battle had shown her the value of alliances, of trust, and of not facing the world alone. Maya stood on the observation deck of her ship, staring out into the vastness of space. The stars looked the same, distant and cold, yet for some reason, they felt different now. They no longer symbolized endless battles or unending struggles. Now, they represented something greater: hope. Hope that things could change, that she could change. Lyra approached, her footsteps quiet but certain. She was dressed in her usual armor, but this time, there was no distant, cold look in her eyes. Instead, her expression was calm, relaxed, almost content. Maya turned to face her as she stepped beside her. You've been quiet lately, Lyra, said her voice gentle. Maya nodded slowly, still looking out at the stars. I've been thinking a lot about the past, about what's next. Lyra stood beside her, gazing out into the same stars. And what have you decided? Maya took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill her lungs. For so long, she had been defined by her role as a warrior. It had shaped everything about her, her actions, her thoughts, her relationships. But now she was beginning to realize that being a warrior wasn't all she could be. She could be something more. She could be part of something bigger than herself. I've realized that I don't have to fight alone, Maya said quietly. I've spent so much of my life thinking that the only way to be strong was to carry the burden by myself. But I was wrong. Lyra glanced at her, understanding in her eyes. We all need help, Maya, even the strongest among us. Maya turned to face Lyra fully, That's why I've been thinking about Earth's future. Not just about the wars, but what comes after. The alliances we've made with the Narkith Empire and others are more than just political. They're the beginning of something bigger. Lyra smiled softly, proud of Maya's realization. You're right. We've shown the galaxy that Earth is a force to be reckoned with. But more than that, we've shown that there's strength in unity. The future isn't just about fighting battles. It's about building bridges, about cooperation. Made that possible, Maya. You've proven that we can stand together. Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest at Lyra's words. She'd always believed in the power of strength and resilience, but now she understood that those qualities didn't just have to be about fighting. They could be about creating something lasting, something that would outlast any war. But what about you, Lyra? Maya asked. Her curiosity piqued. You've been a leader for so long. What happens now for you? Lyra looked at her with a thoughtful expression. I've spent so much of my life focused on power and control. I've led my people through countless wars and struggles, but now I see that leadership is about more than just strength. It's about guiding others, helping them become stronger. I've learned a lot from you, Maya, from your willingness to stand by others, to share the load. Maya smiled, surprised. By Lyra's words, I never thought I'd hear a Narkith noblewoman say something like that. Lyra chuckled softly. Well, I've learned that sometimes you have to look beyond your own empire, your own people. The galaxy is full of possibilities, and I think we both have a role to play in shaping it. The silence between them was comfortable, the weight of their conversation settling in. Maya had spent so much of her life fighting for survival, for victory for Earth. But now, she realized, there was more to her life than just war. There was the future she could build with others, not just for herself, but for everyone. I think I'm ready for that future, Maya said, her voice steady but filled with a new sense of purpose. I don't have all the answers, but I know I'm not alone anymore. I've got people who understand, people who are ready to fight with me, not just beside me. Lyra's smile widened, and she placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. And we'll be there every step of the way together. Maya felt the weight of those words, the promise of what was to come. She had never been one to share her burdens, to lean on others. But now, standing next to Lyra, she realized that the strength to lead didn't come from standing alone. It came from standing with others, from building something stronger than any single person could create. The stars outside the window seemed to shine a little brighter. The galaxy was full of unknowns, full of challenges and dangers, but it was also full of potential. Maya knew that with Lyra, with their allies, they could build something that would last, something that would outlast the wars, the battles, and the bloodshed. Something that would stand as a beacon of hope for the future. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, Maya said, turning to Lyra. But I think we're ready for it. Lyra nodded, her eyes shining with determination. We are. And together, we'll face whatever comes next. As Maya looked out at the stars once again, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, she wasn't afraid. She was ready. She was ready to fight for something greater, for a future, where Earth wasn't just a warrior in the galaxy, but a leader who could bring peace, hope, and strength to the stars. And with Lyra by her side, she knew they could accomplish it.